All right, this is Epictetus, the complete works, part 26. As for the first route, it's both impractical and time consuming to try to do what Zeus was incapable of doing and convince all humankind what's good and what's bad. This isn't an ability that been granted you, is it? You've only been granted the ability to convince yourself, and you haven't even yet done that. And now you're trying to convince others, but no one spends more time with you than you do with yourself, do they? And whose arguments are you more likely to persuade by than your own? Who could be more kindly disposed and closer to you than you are yourself? So how come you haven't yet persuaded yourself to get an education? Everything's topsy-turvy at the moment, isn't it? What is it that you're interested in learning? It's how to be immune to distress, disturbance, and debasement. In other words, how to be free, isn't it? So haven't you heard that there's only one route to that destination? It's letting go of things that aren't subject to your will, detaching yourself from them, and acknowledging that they aren't yours. So to which category does anyone else's opinion about you belong? Among the things that aren't subject to my will. It's nothing to you then. That's right. So as long as you're still hurt and disturbed by what other people think of you, has the truth about good and bad really sunk in? Shouldn't you leave other people alone then, and concentrate on yourself as both pupil and teacher simultaneously? If other people find it profitable to go against their natures and live like that, that's their concern. But no one is closer to me than myself. Why then is it that although I've listened to the philosopher theories and agree with them, in fact my burden hasn't eased at all? Am I really so dense? Imagine someone then who's completely indifferent about whether he lives or dies and willingly accepts his lot. When he comes into a tyrant's presence, what's to stop him doing so without fear? Nothing. Now imagine someone who feels the same way about his possessions, children, and wife, as that man feels about his body. Imagine he's so crazy and witless that he doesn't care whether or not he has these things. Think of a child playing with shards of pottery who tries to win the game but doesn't care about the shards. Like this child, our man has come to consider material things unimportant, but enjoys playing and occupying himself with them. Under these circumstances, is there any tyrant or any guard with their swords who could make him afraid? Moreover, since it's in his nature to be honorable, great-souled, and free, he understands of the things he encounters. Some are impeded and up to him, while others are impeded and up to others. And he knows that it's things that are subject to will that are unimpeded, and things that aren't subject to will that are liable to impediment. Hence, if he regards what's good for him and in his best interest, as he belongs exclusively to the former category, consisting of things that are unimpeded and up to him, he'll be free, content, happy, unharmed, principled, pious, and grateful to God for everything, and he'll never complain about anything he experiences or criticize anyone. However, if he locates the good in things that are external to him and aren't subject to will, and he'll inevitably be impeded and obstructed, a slave to those who have power over the things he values and fears. He'll inevitably be impious because he imagines that he's being harmed by God. Unjust because he'll always be trying to get more than his fair share, debased and petty. If someone understands all this, is there anything that could stop him living in a carefree and relaxed way, calmly consenting to everything that might happen to him and accepting what has already happened? Is it your wish that I should be poor? Bring it on, then, and you'll see what poverty is, and it finds a good actor to play the part. It is your wish that I should hold public office? Bring it on. that I should not hold public office? Bring it on. Perhaps you want me to suffer hardship. Bring on hardship as well. Banishment? Wherever I go will be fine with me, because here was fine with me too. Not because of the location, but because of my judgments. And shall I take those with me? No one can deprive me of them. They're my only true possessions. No one and nothing can take them away from me. And my having them is enough for me, wherever I am, whatever I'm doing. But let's say now it's time for you to die. Why say die? Don't make a tragedy of it, but tell it as it is. Now it's time for your matter to revert once more to the components of which it's made. Is there anything to fear in that? Is any part of the universe going to perish? Is it in any way an abnormal or strange thing to happen? Show me the guards' swords. See how long and sharp they are? So what do? These long, sharp swords, they kill people. And what about fever? What does that do? The same. And what about roof tile? What does that do? The same. So should I stand in awe of all these things, bow down before them, and go about enslaved by them? God forbid. But once I've learned that everything that's born must also die, so that the world doesn't come to a halt or get held up, it no longer matters to me whether it's a fever that sees to my death, or a roof tile, or a soldier. Though if I had to decide between them, I'm sure the soldier would do it less painfully and more quickly. Is this why a tyrant is an object of fear? Is this why his guards' swords seem long and sharp? Others may be frightened by these things, but I've thoroughly investigated the matter that found no one has power over me. I've been set free by God. I know what he enjoins me to do. No one can enslave me any longer, and I have the right kind of manumitter and the right kind of tribunal. Am I not the master of your body? What's that to me? Am I not the master of your property? What's that to me? Aren't exile and imprisonment within my power? Again, I leave all this and my body in its entirety in your hands. You can do any of these things whenever you like. Try your power out on me, and you'll see how far it extends. Who is there, then, that I can still be afraid of? The chamberlains? In case they do what? Shut me out? If they find me wanting to enter, they'll welcome to shut me out. So why do you go about the palace door? Because I think it's appropriate for me to take part in the game as long as it lasts. Why aren't you shut out then? Because if I'm not admitted, I don't want to be admitted. Rather, I always prefer what actually happens, because I consider what God wants to take precedence over what I want. I'll be his devoted servant and attendant. His inclinations are my inclinations. His desires, my desires. In a word, his wishes are my wishes. Being shut out isn't. Why then should I push my way in for the tidbits that are being tossed around? Children grab tidbits and fight one another over them, but men don't, because they don't consider them important. If shards of pottery are being handed out, even children don't snatch them up. Governorship are being handed out, that interests the children, as do money, per some other word, in consulship. Children are welcome to scramble for them, to be shut out of the palace, to be beaten, to kiss the hands of the giver and his slaves. But to me, these are no more than tidbits. But if it so happens that he's tossing these tidbits around, one of them lands in my lap, I'll pick it up and eat it. Even a tidbit can have that much value. But stoop to pick one up, or trip someone else's up, or being tripped up, and flattering those who have access to the palace, no tidbit is worth it. And neither is anything else that isn't truly good, that the philosophers have persuaded me not to think of as good. So since I'm not frightened by anything a tyrant can do to me, and since I don't crave any of these things he can procure for me, why should I stand in awe of him? Why should I admire him? Why should I fear his guards? Why should it make me happy if he speaks kindly to me and makes me welcome? And why should I let others know how he spoke to me? If he were Socrates or Diogenes, his praise would be evidence of my character, but he's not, is he? He's not the kind of person I emulate, is he? No, I go to him because otherwise the game would be ruined, and I serve him as long as he doesn't tell me to do anything stupid or objectionable. If he says to me, go and fetch Leon of Salamis, I tell him to find someone else because I'm pulling out of the game. If he orders me to be taken off to prison, I go along with that because it's intrinsic to the game. But you'll lose your head. And does his head last forever, or the heads of people like you, his obedient servants? But you'll be thrown out unburied. If I'm my carcass, yes, I'll be thrown out. But if I'm not my carcass, you should refine how you talk and tell it like it is, rather than try to frighten me. These things frighten children and fools. But if someone who's entered at school of philosophy doesn't know what he is, he deserves to feel fear and to not flatter those who used to be flattered before. He hasn't yet learned that he isn't flesh and bone and sinews, but the faculty that makes use of these things, that manages and understands impressions. Yes, but these arguments make people disrespect the law. Really? I can't think of any arguments that do a better job of making people obey the law. There's more to the law than what a fool commands. Nevertheless, consider how these arguments get us to behave as we should, even towards fools, because they teach us not to oppose them by claiming as our own any arena when they could defeat us. They teach us to surrender our bodies, possessions, children, parents, brothers, to renounce them all and let them go. They exclude only our judgments, and it was the will of Zeus too, that judgment should be an individual's exclusive property. Is there any breach of law here? Anything unreasonable? In any arena where you're superior and stronger, I yield to you. On the other hand, where I'm superior, you give way to me, because I've made it my concern and you haven't. You're concerned to see what you live in rooms faced with marble, and to make sure that your slaves and freedmen serve you, that you wear eye-catching clothes, and that you have many hounds, minstrels, and actors to call on. I don't lay claim to any of these things, do I? So have you ever concerned yourself with your judgments or with your rational faculty? Do you know what its constituent parts are, and how they're related and interconnected? Do you know what faculties it has and what they're like? Why does it irritate you then if someone else who's taken an interest in these matters is superior to you in this respect? But there's nothing more important than these matters. Well, is anyone stopping you from getting struck and engaging with them? And is there anyone who's better equipped than you with books, spare time, and supportive people? Just give these matters some attention at last and devote some time, even if it's only a little, to your command center. Consider what it is, these things that you have and where it comes from. This faculty that makes use of everything else, assesses everything, selects and rejects. But as long as you give your attention to externals, you have more of them than anyone else. Your command center will be in your preferred condition, dirty and neglected. All right, that's a good point to stop right there.